First is a roll. I'm sorry, I'll start over. We'll call this regular council meeting to order. It's June 8th. It's done via Zoom. I just hope everybody just kind of works with me a little bit. I have trouble looking down at papers below me with my bifocals. So if I kind of turn away or look up, I'm just trying to read what's in front of me. We have roll call. We have Councilperson Leary, Councilperson Day, Councilperson Russ Smith, Councilperson Suzanne Souders. We also have the city administrator with us, Bill Barthel. We have the mayor, Mike Carrancha, the chief of police, Rick McCabe, city solicitor, Dan Lasco. We have the city treasurer, Janet Carlin, and I think that's myself, the president. First order of business are the minutes from May 11th special meeting, May 11th regular meeting, and May 22nd budget workshop special meeting. Pleasure with the minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Valerie, you muted.
Second.
Second by Sandra, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Minutes are carried. Staff reports, approval of the treasurer's report. Ms. Carlin, would you like to give us a report?
Yes, sir. Thank you for asking. This is the unaudited report as of treasurer's report as of May 31st, 2021. Total unrestricted funds, $5,773,825.81. Total restricted funds, $442,992.46. Total cash in the accounts, $6,216,818.27. I don't have anything further to report other than, as you all have agreed to, we're going to have another budget session the 21st. And as far as I can see, we're progressing very well with that. I know there's feedback, and I can't do anything about it. But when I'm finished with this report, as I said, I've concluded my report, and I will mute myself so there's no feedback.
Thank you, Ms. Carlin. Any questions from Ms. Carlin?
I make a move that we accept the treasurer's report as presented. Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Report from city administrator and staff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I have one very important announcement to make, and that is it is our treasurer's birthday, and I would like to wish her a happy birthday. I can see she's embarrassed and she's not even on the screen. So, but anyway.
Well, I guess I should unmute then, and thank you very much. I know I'm an oldster, but I enjoy being with you all. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Thank you
birthday.
for giving up your birthday on this evening to be with us.
Hey, it's actually my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. And then moving along, those of you who've been to Delaware Street since Monday, you can see that the project has reconvened as we said it would. They're making pretty good progress with the mill and overlay and the paving, of course. And as I said, that started on the 7th, as was their announced intentions. As far as the Delmarva update goes, they have started moving meters inside. They have, to this point, they still have 6 people that have agreed. They're still having trouble, unfortunately, getting in touch with 2 folks for whatever reason, but hopefully as they begin the process, they'll come around and they'll be able to hook up with them and put those meters inside. There is one resident who does not want the meter to be put inside. And so at this point, that's kind of where that stands. But as I said, the other 6, and we hope the other 2 will be going inside. In regard to that, we did meet with Layla and with Delmarva some time ago in regard to shielding. And I'm going to ask Kim if she could put up on the screen the shielding that that they sent to us and a picture of it in front of the bank. And then I'm going to ask Layla, who I see is here, to make some comments on it.
Nice.
Yes, good evening, everybody. We had a very productive conversation and had looked at different options that had been used in other areas. And the goal had been to come with something that's practical but minimally intrusive, that does not take up too much footprint on the sidewalks, and that can be easily customized in terms of potentially a color. So this lattice work is fairly flush to the elevation. It can also, I believe they confirmed, Bill, that they can actually reduce the height slightly. So for example, in this case, they could reduce the height so it would come just at below the sill and at the top of the parge or the foundation parge. And this is a good unobtrusive way to shield something that's not particularly aesthetically pleasing when you look at them. And the most important part was keep it snug to the elevation, keep it with a design that could evoke other areas where you have shielding of HVAC equipments and would be fairly discreet. At the same time, it had to have a practical component, which was accessibility to the equipment behind it, so being able to Delmarva to remove it easily. So I think this is a very good compromise. If you want to think about something similar, do you know when you conceal on the side some of the HVAC piping with covers that go up the elevation, but that sort of mimic the brick behind it to make them more discreet? This is that a similar idea, and I think this is a good compromise, particularly since we can work on a case-by-case basis with the finish and the height.
Any other questions for Layla or comments? All right. And I guess we'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Russ is saying something, but is muted.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I came back in again. This may be a bit oversized, especially since we're only going to be trying to camouflage regulators and not actually meters.
Yeah.
And at this size, looking down the street and there's one of these every 15 feet, it's going to, I think, really stand out a bit. You mentioned that Delmarva had some other ideas as well as this, Bill, as far as plantings and other ideas. So if we could have a mix of solutions, I think that might not make these stand out as intrusions themselves. And, if these could have some vegetation on them, that might be a good thing as well.
And to that point, yes, that is something that had been discussed, and I think absolutely right sizing them to minimize them is the priority here. So I think this, they just want to show, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, just the fact of what a lattice could look like. We have looked at planters. The issue was that generally in other areas, when you wound up putting a planter with the diameter that it had, it wound up being very intrusive on the sidewalk. So when we initially had the conversation, obviously we're not talking about a couple of individual cases. We were talking more like what would be a potential general approach throughout. And we also talked about, Russ, to your point, about coming back and working with the colors. So making them smaller and making the colors potentially blend in with the finishes around them. The potential for perhaps putting some vegetation around them, it would require, like in this particular case, putting a small planter within the brick. That we'd have to see how that would, how practical that would be. But the planters themselves are in and of themselves fairly large, at least the ones that we looked at. And there was a concern when we discussed those with Jeff of just allowing, intrusions on allowable passage along the sidewalks at areas where we did not have the same bandwidth that you have at some portions of Delaware Street. But they did say that they'd be working on a case-by-case basis to make sure that it was minimally intrusive. Which
Well, I
goes to
think
your, which goes to your
the
point.
color, yeah, the color issue is a
It's
good
particular-
one to address, and I'm glad they're thinking in that direction.
Yes. And we've also explained that on a case-by-case basis before they went and installed it, that, you know, Jeff and I would always be available for a consult to make sure that the one that was put in was the right one in terms of size, dimensions, and colors.
Anyone else?
And you can, I understand you can paint the regulators too, if you wanted to go, if you wanted to try to make them blend in. So I guess that's also an option.
Yeah, the chameleon effect, I believe, yes, that would be, they mentioned that would potentially be, I mean, that's something Delmar would have to confirm in terms of maintenance, whether that's acceptable, but again, anything that would make it blend more would be a good approach.
Any other questions on this, Mr. President?
No, sir, go ahead. Continue, please.
Okay, all right, Kim, if you could take that down, please. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, the next thing I wanted to mention to council, you all are aware of the ARPA funding, the American Rescue Plan Act funding that initially we were told was going to be 2.75 million. My understanding now that that's gone to 2.9 million. That's the good news. I won't say the bad news, but I'll just say this: there are a lot of there's still a lot of questions as to how those monies can be used. There is a meeting Thursday, this Thursday, the 10th, with Colleen Davis, who's the Delaware State Treasurer, Liza Davis, who's the Deputy State Treasurer, and Jordan Siemens, who's the Director of Policy and Communications for the Office of the State Treasurer. So we have that meeting this morning. On Thursday, Diane, Kathy, and I are all going to attend that meeting, and hopefully I'll have some more clarity as to what can be done with that funding. And just to let council know, obviously, this is something that's very important to the city, and we are trying to stay on top of it as best we can.
Go on that.
Mr. President. I'm sorry,
Yes, sir.
Bill, could you just repeat that number one more time, please? The revised number?
From what I understand, the revised number is 2.9 million.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from council? All right, Jeff's on vacation. Chief. Oh,
Miss Leary?
Yeah, I just had a question. The property behind Wilmington Fiber, there was a rumor that it's sold. Do we know if it's sold yet or not?
I do not have an updated transfer tax schedule from May. And so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Chief?
Thank you. Good evening. I just have a few things. First, I wanted to provide an update with the homicide we're investigating. It's about a week old now. As many of you should know, last Tuesday around 11:30, we responded to a shooting in the Buttonwood area where a 24-year-old female was found dead from her gunshot wounds. What we can tell you to this point is that we are looking for a group of folks that are from outside of the city that came in looking for some type of an altercation, which led to the shooting. Our detectives have been working on this pretty hard. They have some solid leads and they're working well with other agencies. So, our hope is to provide a better update as time goes on. I've gotten a few calls about an incident that occurred on the 31st, around 2 in the morning in the area of around 5th and Cherry. I can tell you that a local juvenile resident was seen fleeing that area at a high rate of speed in a car with no lights. He refused to stop. Our officer called off the pursuit. The vehicle was then involved in a crash. Our officer gave foot pursuit, lost him, but I was able to identify the juvenile. Warrants were signed. He eventually was arrested. I know that caused a little bit of commotion. Again, and last night, many of you are aware, I'm sorry, I thought I had a question. We had a vehicle crash into a train southbound on Wilmington Road. We called the traffic services unit from the county police to help us investigate that. They have the experts to do that, along with the feds out. So we hope to have some answers as to, I'm getting questions as to how could something like that happen. Typically when these investigations are done, all the safety equipment's examined to make sure that it was functioning, and then they work their way back towards some form of operator error. So we hope to have an answer for that. Last month, we talked about our community initiative. This month, what I have to this point is that initiative has led to dozens of community contacts that were submitted to the operations captain in a report, close to 12 foot patrols. And in each community, some common denominators, quality of life issues were OHV and ATV complaints, and then small low-lying traffic violations. So the common remedy has been increased presence and increased traffic assignments. Another quality of life issue we're seeing in the Penn Valley, Buttonwood area was loitering in open containers. That was remedied with some foot patrols. We're encouraging folks as we make these community contacts to contact the non-emergency number or the emergency number if it warrants to get a quicker response, and then to develop the relationships with the officers that are assigned. And to follow up to Councilman Day's suggestion that we push something out to notify the public of this initiative, I have provided our web designer with an updated list of what squads assigned to what area, along with a brief description of what this program looks like. And then once that's up, then we'll use our Facebook page to get people to click on the website link and then get information that way. We've also added some a different link on our page that's called, the link is transparency. You click on it, you're going to be able to see some of the statistical information that some of the hot topic information that you're reading about with respect to discipline, internal affairs stuff, demographics with enforcement, stuff like that. So when you click on the transparency link, you'll start to see some of those reports. Our bike event last week was very successful. I think we registered over 50 bikes, gave out a lot of helmets to children that were on the path. And I think we got rid of all the literature that we had given to us by DelDOT, which was successful. And then last, we're looking for any, and this isn't a one and done, so it could be all the communities if they're interested, but we're looking to sponsor a community where we can host a drug awareness and a NAMI initiative. NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. We've got folks from both groups that are willing to come out and help us. The trust has generously offered to fund that with the $500 donation they gave to this initiative. So we're looking for a community that's interested in hosting us. Once we get some interest, then we'll be able to set a date and hope to get a good crowd. And that's all that I have.
Chief, I have one question for you. I know last month you talked about cracking down on these ATVs where you were going to just figure out who the rider was and then track them back to where they live and confiscate bikes and all. Are you making any progress with that? And I guess my follow-up question would be, how do you identify, how much identification do you need? If we know John Smith is doing it and John Smith lives on A Street, 2A Street, is that enough, or do there have to be photos? Do there have to be reports? How do we follow up on that?
So if hypothetically, if a neighbor calls and says that I know that it's John Smith, we would have to corroborate that, but then that neighbor would have to help us if it were to go to court to testify to say how he knew that it was John Smith. So we need that community partnership kind of thing.
Okay.
Sometimes all you need are the bike descriptor, a helmet descriptor, padding descriptors. And what we're finding is other agencies are familiar with these riders as well. So if you say there's somebody with a Spider-Man helmet, that there may be intelligence or information gathered from another agency that says, I stopped John Smith on a such and such type of bike wearing that Spider-Man helmet. And that's just, there are more elements to provide us with information that, could eventually lead to a probable cause type of arrest or at least a search.
Search. Okay, thank you.
And we have had some success.
Ms. Leary?
Chief, in reference to the initiative you were talking about and for the Waiting for a Neighborhood, are there any additional funds that are needed?
At this point, no. I think we have what we need, but if that were to come, I would certainly say something. I know there's some grants out there that we could access as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Council President,
Mr. Mayor,
if I could ask the chief a quick question, I'd appreciate it.
the floor is yours.
Chief, with fireworks event coming up and the potential for a large number of people in attendance, just generally, what's the strategy? What's the plan, please?
So we have met a few times with Goodwill and as a staff, and we have an op plan that I just signed today. So we will have, it's an all hands on deck scenario. It's going to be modified compared to what we were preparing pre-COVID for the latest separation day. It was an all-day event, but the goal is around 1800 or 6 o'clock. We're going to restrict inbound traffic. We're not going to let folks park down that way. We're going to let city residents through, but the idea is to try to limit as much vehicular traffic as we can, so that there's no intermixing with vehicles and pedestrians. And then we should have a pretty good contingencies of folks to help us with the intersection so that the police presence can focus on the park itself, focus on perimeter security, and then the security for the fireworks. So we have a plan together. We've got a lot of resources from different agencies that'll be available. We've got a location set up for a command post, and so we're ready to go.
Great, thank you very much. And let the team know that the post fireworks party is over at Joe Day's house. Thank you.
Yay.
I'm watching from his porch.
Uh,
Mr. Barthel, anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Platt, just on the note of on fireworks, just remind everybody, okay, we are beginning the fireworks at 9:30. There will be music beginning at about 8:30. That should go to 10. We are not putting up the additional or the heavier shells. A decision was made because of the restrictions that were lifted by the state, that we anticipate that there will be more people in attendance than otherwise. If you all recall, this thing has been, this has been something that's been very fluid. We went from a time where we didn't think we were going to do it to a time where we were back at Battery Park. But because of the lifted restrictions, we're just going to, for safety purposes, set off the fireworks that we normally do and hope that we get a lot of people from the city who can participate and can attend the event.
So that means there won't be any really high fireworks that could be seen at a distance. That's what that
No,
means.
we're not going to be doing the additional height, as I just said, because of the concern for the fire from the fire marshal. You have to do a larger radius when you do those shells. And as I said, with the restrictions lifted from COVID, we're concerned that if more people do show up than we were originally anticipating, that it could be a safety hazard. So we just went back and decided we'd go with what we normally do.
Which is a fantastic show anyways.
Thank
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It'll be exciting.
Yep.
Just want people in Wilmington to be able to see them.
All right. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Mr. Barthel. Council communications.
I have a couple. Suzanne, go ahead.
It's quick. Just thanks for putting out the trash can on 3rd Street Extended, and I've noticed less trash in the vacant lot, so it seems to be working. Thank you.
Ms. Leary?
I had a resident contact me who lives on 6th Street, who contacted me with concerns about the large tree that came down near the intersection of 6th and Delaware. I had contacted Mr. Barthel, and he in turn actually asked Mr. Antonio to respond, and Mr. Antonio gave a very educational and detailed response, of which I, as well as the resident, was very happy with. So kudos to John Antonio for a really good explanation. Just as a matter of staying up to date and not so much for a matter of discussion, I sent an email to Peter Haig from DelDOT. The email date is 5/18. Kim, if you want to put it up, I'm not going to read it. But this email just had my concerns about the light at 6th and Delaware. And I had taken a drive to Wilmington and noticed a lot of what I call suspended lights, the ones that hang from the wires. And I had asked him about that. So this email was sent to Mr. Barthel, who in turn sent it. No, that's not it. No. 5/18. Oh, there we go. This original email was sent to all of council. So I'm going to presume that you read it. The next email, I received a response from Mr. Haig on June 2nd. That email was just distributed to you. He talks in detail about a few things, makes an alternate proposal, which there is a picture of it in our council notes. Again, we're not really discussing that tonight, but this is just an FYI. Additionally, the mayor and I have requested to meet with Peter and speak in person about this issue. And I'm going to try to play it out as far as we can go to see if we can get this changed. It just doesn't logically make sense to me about why we cannot keep suspended wires and still update the system, since it exists so many other areas in the county that are overseen by DelDOT. So if you have any questions, you can direct those to Mr. Barthel, and they'll come to me, or vice versa. But just so you know what is in progress or process on this. Mayor Carranza, do you have any comments?
I don't. I think I look forward to the meeting and hear directly from them exactly what they might be able to consider beyond that which has been proposed at this time. And that's really I think the crux to the matter, to see if there are other options that they could explore. So far, we're kind of given a Hobson's choice. It'd be nice to have a couple of other options that if we get a little more creative about this, that'd be nice. Thanks.
Anyone else? I think I do want to mention is that I think the fireworks are going to be exciting. I think there's going to be a little confusion whether the larger shells are going to be used. Understood that it's probably best that we are in the park, and it's a fluid situation. So as many people as you can get out on social media, that kind of thing, just to kind of head things off, so everybody does know that there was a change and audible at the line, and it was for public safety basically. So we should definitely keep with that. Thank you. Next is a second reading of ordinance 533, an ordinance to amend the zoning code 230-5 to permit use of Penn Farm property tax parcel 21-00900-002 as a business administration office with board and meeting room for the trustees of Newcastle Common, as well as other public and private events. We've already,
Platt, I think we skipped the mayor's comments before we get into this other issue. I know you're having trouble reading your list.
that was a Freudian slip there. I apologize.
Didn't think it
I was
was
trying to save
intentional.
us a couple hours. I apologize. Thank you, Ms. Saunders. I do appreciate that.
Oh,
I do appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, maybe that.
Mr.
neck
Mayor,
brace
my
is-
apologies. The floor is yours.
I am not responsible for that neck brace. I promise everybody. All right. So, thank you, Mr. Platt. I will be brief. Thank you. And I appreciate the indulgence in allowing me to comment here and there throughout the meeting. So we talked enough about the fireworks. Chief answered all my questions. Mr. Barthel did as well. Thank you for all that. I also want to thank the city administration, the administrator, the staff, trustees, council, MSC, Delmarva Power, everyone else associated with the paving on Delaware Street. Also really appreciate the patience that the neighbors and the businesses have shown throughout this entire process. This is probably one of the, it may be the biggest project of its kind that the city's ever undertaken. And it's quite substantial, and certainly appreciate everybody pulling it together. It's really nice to see it all come together. Also want to thank all the people in addition to the city staff again. We had a really nice Arts Council city event with Opera Delaware last month. Nicely attended, good weather, very nice feedback from people that attended. I've gotten several comments and several inquiries from different neighborhoods, and Mr. Barthel shared with me that during COVID, we had to take down the basketball rims and nets, and some of those have rusted on and were tough to get off. So when we went to put new ones up, we had to buy new rims, and because the old ones were a little bit in rough shape. So anyway, all that's been put back together, and the basketball courts are up and operational. And I think that's it. So appreciate the time. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I know the Art Council did the movies in the park last year, and I mean, it was kind of a mess with COVID and whatnot. I mean, it was a lot of confusion. And are they planning on anything this summer?
We haven't organized anything at this point. You know, we've kind of, unfortunately, a lot of these things, anybody within the sound of my voice who's had a hand in organizing any events, I mean, these things take sometimes weeks or months or longer to get organized. At this point, we've not reached out to the vendor who did the movie night. If we did that again, we talked about doing it a little bit later in the year, so it would be darker sooner and we wouldn't have to wait so long into the night before we started. So that if we replicated that, that would probably be more like a late September idea, where it starts to get darker earlier and still temperate enough out that people aren't freezing late into the evening. So we haven't had anything planned after the Opera Delaware event, but now that things have opened back up, the group is gathering and we'll be in communication with other ideas. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barthel, once more from President's Communications. I know the state is looking for vaccination sites. Would Battery Park be a good one for the fireworks? If people wanted to get their vaccine, they could do it. Is it too late to set that up, you think, or do you think we should look into it? They look for mass events.
Well, I don't know if it's too late or not. I would think that if they agreed that it would be something that would be beneficial, that they may be able to do it. I don't know. As to us doing it, obviously we'd have to do it in conjunction with the approval from the trustees, I would think as well. Now, unless you're just going to set it up, if you're going to set it up in the park, if you're not going to set it up in the park, but you're going to set it up outside of the park, that might be something we could do. Chief, what are your thoughts on that, if you don't mind?
The issue I see is that if the goal is to restrict vehicular traffic towards the park so that we don't have the mixture of cars and people. That may make that initiative a little challenging. If that's a route you wanted to take, we would have to revamp our op plan.
I just, I saw something on the news tonight where they did it somewhere and they just had a tent set up, and people sat down, got their shots and moved forward, but understood the security change. Okay, sorry about that. Well,
Mr. Platt, I would say, and I have heard other people in different venues similarly try this. We would need to have, if we were to do something, you really do need the J&J product because people tend to return back to the same place where they got their first shot and their second shot. So this would, they'd have to have accessibility to the J&J product if they're going to do it.
Okay. At this time, we'll take public comments. Kim, does anybody have their hands up?
Okay, I have Rod Miller. Hold on 1 second.
Could you let him in, please? Good evening, Mr. Miller.
Hello? Am I unmuted?
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just a couple of things. First, I wanted to thank Mr. Bergstrom for all the trouble he went to, a question about painting parking stripes. I'm not happy about the situation here, but at the same time, I really never wanted ugly white parking stripes, in the historic area. I didn't want to be known as the person, that caused that, but, the problem's here. I just thought that it was a little ironic that the law requiring a 22-foot spot because of the narrowness of the street in order for people to, more safely parallel park. I think it's ironic that's the thing that's keeping parking stripes from saving spots. And yet it's still something that we all have to deal with, So again, I don't want to beat this to death, but I think there are other ways, maybe to combat, this issue, but still, we're still fighting the battle of being at the mercy of how other people park. That's just the way it is here. If people leave too much space between where they park and a curb cut, or too much space between where they're legally allowed to park, when you get close to a fire hydrant. And if they leave, not enough room for another car, but enough room to waste space, then, everybody falls in line. So again, maybe we can, well, definitely, I'm going to bring this up again. The issue that the council talked about, I remember, I guess maybe 2 years ago or more, which was the idea of, on Delaware Street, or in the downtown area anyway, you're talking about the possibility of a parking kiosk. I don't know whatever became of that. Maybe that's not a thing anymore now that there's the new parking lot on West 3rd. But also the idea was bandied about parking permits. So, that's an avenue I want to go down next when we, talk about this, for the simple matter, not just because this is a thing that irritates me in my particular street, but it is a quality of life issue. And I know for a fact it is a property value issue. Okay. I mean, in spite of how the market is so hot right now, I know for a fact it definitely affects the value of properties on the street that don't have, a driveway. So anyway, enough of that. But I thank Mr. Bergstrom I didn't mean to put him to all that trouble, but at least I have an answer, to that now, why, it's not effective, for the city to get involved with parking stripes. But again, the other thing I want to bring up is the reason on my block anyway, that this is a problem with parking is, the multi-unit rentals that you've heard me go on and on and on and on about. I just wanted to let you know, I've begun trying to do a little bit of research. I'm still waiting to hear back from the county on this. To my knowledge, I think it's 1,700 square feet, per unit. So, again, I guess that would tell me that anything 3,400 and beyond, that's square foot that's lot square footage, would be open game, for a second unit. So what I'm trying to find out from the county, is there any way to go on their website and find out how many properties that fit that category, that we have here? But again, to me, the main thing would be the parking spot out front. Okay, so, again, I want to bring this up again, that maybe when I get time, I'll send an email to the council so we can maybe have a little discussion about it. next month, unless somebody wants to, chime in on it now. But the thing most irritating to me is the multi-unit properties that only have room for one parking spot out front. And I don't.
Mr. Miller,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, sir, but we are at your 3-minute limit. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your input. Kim, anyone else?
Phil Gross has his hand up.
You can let him in, please.
Yes, good evening again, Council. Chief, thank you for reminding me about the accident with the train yesterday. I guess I can send an email to Council, but the cross and the intersection by Walgreens where they're talking about revamping that whole thing with gates coming down, I would, put a little more urgency because the date of doing it, or at least starting it, keeps getting put off. Now it's next year. So I would use this as a stepping stone and some ammunition for council to say, hey, we got to act on it now. We got to start now before something else serious happens. And just use it as an example. So that was the first thing. And I guess I didn't get a chance to respond. You guys made some good points as far as the Penn Farm and it being strictly a usage issue as far as council. But again, I've got to say that their usage is not going to be any different than before, other than to take down a building and move their offices to there, which, yes, it's their property, and yes, they can do what they want. But I don't think by changing the usage, it should still stay as farmland. Once you take that agricultural designation away, guarantee, I hope I'm wrong, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have either houses or another industrial park there. And as far as getting someone to live in the house, yeah, that ship kind of sailed, but I think they should put their money into renovating it instead of putting a whole new wing on for them to have a smoking lounge. There's at least 2 people that I know of that would be willing to live in a house on that property. And yet the trustees claim they found no one that was willing to live on it. And as I sent you guys emails, they never posted that I know of in any periodical house for rent. We're looking for you. So again, I would hold off a little while longer on changing the usage. Thank you.
You're welcome. Kim, anyone else? I understand Miss Darcy Fisk has some letters to be read. She's still in the audience. Does she want to read them herself? Kim, would you mind reading them for us, please?
Sure, hold on one second.
Take your time.
Okay, the first one was dated May 27th to the members of council. First, it is inappropriate for the council president to shove an ordinance proposal for a zoning into a budget workshop. Second, the plan of the trustees to restore the farmhouse is a disaster. I was a trustee until December 2018, and for most of my years on the board, I spent much time with others trying to restore the farmhouse. At the last TAC meeting, Layla Hammeron, the city architect, said that the farmhouse is a prime example of historic architecture in the city of Newcastle and should be preserved. The trustees are planning to tear down the oldest sections of the farmhouse, claiming that it is in such bad shape that it cannot be restored. Ms. Hammeron said she has walked through the building a number of times, and that is not the case. I too have walked through the building on a number of times and agree with her statement. It is, however, shocking that the Board of Trustees has permitted the farmhouse to remain in its current shape for such a long time. They are supposed to be the stewards of our city's land and history. What they will be doing by their fake restoration is frankly obscene and deeply damaging to the history of the town, which we rely on for businesses, for organizations and for people to move here. In addition, it is deleterious to the farm to turn the farmhouse into an office, meeting room, and archive space instead of the original trustee plan of having someone live in the farmhouse. I feel that this is calculated to ensure secrecy because not very many people will go going out there to ask questions at the office. Also, to store archives out there is very dangerous because of the risk of arson. The very fact that no one will be living in the house is dangerous to the property and to any buildings on the farm. Undoubtedly, the trustees will claim that they will install a fire alarm system. Although we have an excellent fire department, nonetheless, by the time they are able to get out there, the archives and undoubtedly much of the building will be destroyed. I urge council to alter this area of proposed zoning. The other changes are merely confirming what is already being done on the farm. Sincerely, Darcy Fisk. This email was sent today, June 8th. I am writing to request the council not vote to approve the section of ordinance 533 that deals with permitting the use of the Penn Farm property as a business/administration office. If you do so, you will be aiding and abetting the trustees in the destruction of the last remaining agricultural history of the town on property that belongs to all Newcastle residents. By changing the farmhouse use from residential to business, the farm and its buildings will be put in jeopardy of fire, vandalism, and theft. In addition, you will be facilitating the trustees in moving their office from the center of town, which will make it more difficult for their beneficial owners, all of us, to register to vote and ask questions about our property, which they manage on our behalf. And as a former trustee who worked long and hard with several others attempting to restore the farmhouse as a dwelling so a farmer and his family could live there to protect and oversee the farm, there is at least one local farmer who told the trustees he would love to live on Penn Farm. I find this current plan wrong and dangerous. It makes me wonder if the current Board of Trustees is contemplating future zoning change requests, ones that would allow the end of farming and building of commercial projects on this land. How would we know? They don't tell us, the trust owners, anything. They are subject to the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, but they refuse to give us any information. That's it.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have a comment? Any other hands up in the gallery?
No other hands up at this time.
Okay. We're going to move forward to ordinance 533. I already said what it is. It's amend zoning to Penn's Farm. We are going to waive the rate of reading on this one just for the simple fact it's been read twice, once tonight. So I have a motion to consider ordinance 533.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the ordinance? No concerns?
Done.
All, Ms. Clerk? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Next is, oops, I'm sorry. New business is the Bull Hill Boatyard discussion, including this consideration of a new lease of Bull Hill Boatyard Incorporated. Mr. Barthel, would you like to give us a little background on this?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. So recently, there's been some questions concerning the maintenance of the beach, some maintenance, who is responsible for the boatyard? Is there still a Bull Hill Boatyard Incorporated? I had some conversations with Mike Thatcher, who I understand is now the current president of the boatyard. And in an effort to basically say, we really haven't had a lease with those folks since 2018. And basically, I thought it would be a good idea with these questions that are coming to the city to say to Mike, hey, why don't you come to council, explain what the current status is of the Bull Hill Boatyard Incorporated, what you guys are doing, and just bring everybody up to date so we're all current. And then basically, my recommendation would be that if council's satisfied with the status and what they intend to do moving forward, that we would just, we would do another formal lease with those folks. So I see Mike's here. Mike, do you have anything? Well, Mr. President, does that satisfy Mike? Can I introduce?
Satisfied. Mr. Thatcher, you have any comments?
No, but I'd like to say hello to everybody. The only comments we have is, yeah, things kind of got a little bit away from us, and it was a little bit of a mess, and we do appreciate the help that the city landed in cleaning up and repairing down there. Things have gotten, over time, some of the officers have gotten a little bit older, and things kind of got away from us with the lease, and they didn't understand. We didn't understand it had expired. And we most definitely would like to continue to use the property for what it's being used as now, and has been used forever as a boatyard and access to, and a landing and access to the river. We're in the middle of putting together, discussion as to what we were going to do with the remaining dock that's there, whether we were going to remove it or repair it. That's there. And other than that, we would just, like I said, we would like to renew the lease and starting it, as soon as possible, so we can straighten everything out and have everything, up to date on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thatcher. Any questions from council?
I'm just curious, can you actually put I know you can't put a boat in there with, I forget the term for the depth of the boat. Does anyone put in hunting boats, the little bass boats or anything?
Oh yeah, you can still, at high tide, you can still get larger boats in that, but at low tide, like anywhere on the river, there's no water, as global warming and the silt and fill-in has done and changed that over the years. So that makes, you have to use it tidal wise, time there. And yes, we still do use it. It's still, we have about 15 members that own boats that are still boating members. And it's not used heavily, but it's used during the fishing season and hunting season and stuff. But you can put a boat over there probably as large as 20 feet.
Okay.
Come and go from there.
I'm sorry.
That's good.
Smith?
I noticed that in the lease, there is a section talking about access to the boat ramp to residents of Newcastle for a fee. That kind of surprised me. I never knew that could happen. Does that happen? Has that happened?
Well, since like 2000, when the boat club was formed, the property was always open up until that point, and I guess it was the city obtained the property from what I understand, from the old ferry company, the company that operated the ferry, who actually owned it. It's been used as a boatyard for at least that I know of, through family wise, for well over 150 years, and possibly dates back as far as when the Dutch dug that dike up there. It would only make sense that it was used at that point for that. It's right there. It's been used over the years. At one time, there was probably 25, 30 boats stored there, as big as 30, 40-foot wooden boats. It's obviously not that size any longer and has none of those things in it. But we had to obviously lease the property from the city. It's now, it belongs to the city. So yeah, the fee was there just for the maintenance of stuff and to pay the lease and any other bills that occur because of it.
Well, so but this can be used for all Newcastle residents.
Sure, anyone is welcome to join it.
Not just the members. Okay.
Yes, anyone from the city of Newcastle is welcome to join it. And our membership goes up and down and back and forth with time and over time.
No, that's not just members, though. It says any resident.
Yes, if they want to join as a member, yes.
No, any resident who will pay a fee.
Yes, it would then
will pay a fee of $10
to launch a boat. Correct. Right. That's pretty common on most launches.
That's a day use fee, whereas members don't have to pay the day use fee. Is that correct?
Correct. That's the best way to sum it up.
It would be hard to collect a day use fee from someone, because that would require someone to be there on a daily basis to do that.
This is per launch per launch, not.
Yeah,
not daily.
well, I understand what you're discussing, and that happens all over the country, but those are usually on private property that is owned by someone, or that they charge a daily fee to go over. Other than that, you either buy from like the county that maintains it or the city a permit, or as with us, the private group who maintains it at this present time.
This is in your lease.
That
I'm not-
release that says what now? I'm sorry, sir.
Okay, in addition to permitting walking access to pedestrians, lessee also agrees, notwithstanding its right to control vehicle access, permit residents of Newcastle who are not members of the Bull Hill Boatyard access to the Broad Dyke Boat Ramp for the purpose of launching boats, subject to lessee's right to charge a reasonable fee not to exceed $10 per launch to such resident non-member of the lessee, and provided that residents abide by park rules. So yeah, it's already there. I was asking whether you intend to continue that. And right now, nobody knows about that. Excuse the cat. So that was surprising to me, but yeah, it's in your lease.
Okay, I actually didn't understand that part of it that was on there. But yes, if someone wants to use it as a daily fee, if they contact me, I will make sure that they have access to that.
Okay.
And we can make that as a local contact, as to do that and have it available to them on a daily fee usage. But if someone really wants to use it, you can join the club for a much easier fee, once a year fee, and use it at your convenience at any time.
Okay, well, this is per launch. It's not a daily fee.
Per launch would be, well, okay, if you use it twice in one day, then you would have to pay twice. But usually when it's, a per launch or whatever, when it's a paid launch, it's usually to use it for that day.
Russ, I can understand that if they're maintaining it down there, $10 isn't a lot to launch a boat on the Delaware. I know up the creek, there was a bar restaurant up the creek on the 7th Street Peninsula in Wilmington. And they were $10 on the honor system, 20 or free for the first launch, $20 if you got caught launching without. But no, I think that joke failed. That's not unreasonable. That's not unreasonable, the $10, because somebody would have to go down and unlock the gate because it is gated. So if somebody's going to launch, they would have to make arrangements to go down there, unlock the gate, and then launch the boat. A member would have to do that.
Well, the lease is probably well out of date, so.
Right.
Yes.
And it needs to be rewritten.
Mr. President, may I ask a question of Mr. Thatcher?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Thatcher, does the boat club carry liability insurance currently?
Yes, I'm sure. Yes, I do. I don't have access to that information right now. Our secretary, who is a little bit older, who's a little bit slow in catching up on things when we ask for them, which we are taking care of those things right now. But yes, we according to our lease, we have always maintained a liability policy.
What I see in the lease is an indemnity clause, but not an express provision for insurance in favor of the city. But if you're already carrying it, it should be very easy to add the city as an additional insured if it's not already on the policy. So, okay, thank you.
We can definitely do that. That's a requirement. Sure, that's not a problem.
As
Okay,
long
yes,
as
it
we
just-
have the pig roasts again,
Excuse me?
as long as the pig roasts are there again.
Yeah, it would be nice to start to have them again. It's been a few years since we've actually had the manpower and the time to do that. But yeah, we would definitely like to have more. We would definitely like to have more residents as members. And it has always been like any residents over the age of 65 are free to join. It costs nothing, and we have as many non-boat using members that are social members. As
Yeah.
we do using.
I was one once upon a time.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it was a lot more of people, and as time's gone on, people have moved out of town, gotten older, and uninvolved in it. So we would definitely like to have more people involved in it. It's something that we need to look into, and so trying to recruit new members and advertising it, to be honest with you.
Michael, it would be nice to see something advertised for the
boat club, whether it was in the weekly or
Yeah,
wherever you can
yeah.
advertise. Because I'm sure that there's a lot of people who would be interested in joining.
Yes, exactly. We can do that. We need to discuss that and do that, make it known, make it more known again. Now the time has gone on further since the beginning of it and it's moved on and new residents have moved in and other residents have moved out. It would be nice to update people and let them know about it.
The most recent contract signed was what year? Mr. Barthel, do you know?
The information we have, which is in council's packet, was that there was information provided to us in 2018. And as I originally said,
Oh, I see.
I believe that, again, whatever information we had that's in your packet was done in 2018. And as, again, as I was saying, I thought that this was a good time for us to revisit the situation, restart the whole discussion and then put together a new lease, a more current lease, as I think Mr. Smith alluded to. But that's pretty much what we have. So it's been some time since we've really formalized anything.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mike, would you guys be trying to improve the boat ramp? I was down there a few weeks ago and it was in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, it has seen its better days. We'll guarantee you that. And it does need some improvement. We would have to check into what our requirements to the state and environmentally wise, what we can and cannot do in this day and age, because that changes obviously a lot, But yes, it does need some attention. It most definitely does need some attention down there. We did.
Council President Platt, was this a motion needed or just discussion only so they can move forward with the lease?
Well, it's a discussion right now, but if it's the will of council, I asked Mr. Barthel to enter into negotiations with the boat club and just report back to council if there's a new lease agreed upon with council's approval once the two of the boat club and the city works it out.
Okay.
I just have one question. Mr. Bartel, to your knowledge, during the time that there was a lease, were there ever any problems at the boat club?
Not to my knowledge. No.
Thank you. I'd never heard of any, but I figured you'd have a better idea.
No.
And will we be looking at like a 1-year lease, a 3-year lease, a 5-year lease? Does the boat club or the city have a preference? Just out of curiosity?
Well, if you're asking me, Mr. Day, I think that would be something that we'd want to talk to the solicitor about. We have been doing, I think we had been doing 5-year leases. I personally think maybe a 3-year lease might be more appropriate because then we might tend to be more collectively, we're more in tune as to what's going on a shorter period of time. That's my thought on it.
Got you. Michael, is there something you were looking for?
No, other than, there was just the last time, like we said, it was like every 5 years it was renewed or whatever, but whatever is, the cheapest and most convenient for you guys. We don't want to cost, a lot of money to have to rewrite a bunch of leases and go over this back and forth, year after year or whatever, but we're agreeable to pretty much anything you guys are going to bring up, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Barthel, you want to take care of that and report back to council next month?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. All right, next motion, discussion and vote on resolution 2021-18. A resolution declaring 3 vehicles, 1 piece of equipment owned by the city as surplus, authorizing its disposal and said surplus property. We have a Stowe model R as in Robert, 2000 ride-on static roller, number SN-871531. We have a 2005 blue Ford Crown Victoria, VIN number 2 Frank Alpha Henry Paul, 71 William, 95 X-rays 10967. We have another Ford Victorian 2006 VIN number 2 Frank Alpha Henry Paul, 71 William, 76 X-ray 108948. a 2008 Ford Crown Victorian, VIN number 2 Frank Alpha Paul 71 Victor 88 X-ray 179450. Do I have a motion on resolution 21
So
or
moved.
202118?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Second,
Of course, so be it. Mr. Barthel, you want to explain these vehicles?
Sure, thanks, Mr. Platt. Okay, so the Crown Vics, the two Crown Vics, if everybody is aware, were the autos driven by Mr. Bertram and Mr. Casali. And of course, we've upgraded the fleet to 2 electrical vehicles, and we want to trade these in and get whatever value we can for them as a trade-in at this time. The white Crown Vic was used as a K9 car, and it's pretty much seen its day. And that too, we would like to trade in at this point. And I'll just comment on this, if council's concerned that at some point you want to, that the police want to get another K9, I can assure you this is not the car that we want to use for that purpose. So we, again, would like to get the value we can for that. And then the Stowe model R2000 static roller, there's a picture of it there. It's a steamroller. And we had declared the trailer as surplus property some time ago and did not include the steamroller in that declaration. So in order to make that official, we're basically asking council to go ahead and declare the steamroller surplus as well. It's not obviously, if the question's asked, it's not something that we use.
Any questions for the city administrator?
Going to begin.
All in favor of resolution 2021-18?
aye.
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 Aye, so move it. I guess we look for a motion to adjourn at this point.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Have a safe week. Hope we all see each other at the fireworks. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks for
Take care,
doing
Mike.
fireworks on my birthday.